Well, more and more people are getting infected with COVID-19, as we see reflected in those numbers this morning. Over the past 24 hours alone, the country recording over 17,000 new cases. Now, one of the people who's had it and has recovered is journalist and radio host and an old colleague of mine, David O'Sullivan. He and his wife, Jackie, contracted the virus a month ago, and he's going to talk to us about his experience this morning. David, I'm so happy to be able to speak to you again. It was touch and go for you and Jackie there for a couple of weeks, I suppose. Still, take us back to where you found out. What made you go and test? What was happening at that point?
Yuveka, it's fabulous to be talking to you, and I have to get COVID-19 in order to talk to Yuveka Rangappa again after so many years. It's bizarre. But there were a whole bunch of us at my radio station at Kai FM who were feeling unwell at the same time. So while we were doing our best efforts at sanitizing, washing hands, wearing masks and doing everything that we needed to do, doing the social distancing, this is an insidious little mean, vicious, remorseless virus, and it got in. And I couldn't say who infected me or how it got infected, but it found a chink in my armor. And I started feeling a little headachy, but didn't think much of it because I'm used to getting the odd headache, and a couple of headache tablets is fine to knock it out. But when my colleagues started testing positive, I realized something was up, and immediately I was isolating and went for my test. And I honestly believed that I could not possibly have it because I didn't have any of the well-publicized symptoms. No high fever, no nausea, no aches and pains, for example, all the things that we're told to look out for. All I had was a very, very slight headache. And so it came as a bit of a rude shock when I did test positive. And it was only, I would say, in fact, I can tell with certainly 5 days after I was diagnosed, that the virus really ramped up and hit me and Jackie, my wife, hard. And we had a patch of another 5 days where it really took its best out of us. And it was the symptom that I was least prepared for, the fatigue, the debilitating, unrelenting fatigue, which just sucks the very life out of you. And we were in bed, unable to move, unable to think, unable to do anything for 5 days. Wow. It was absolutely horrible, and I had to keep reminding myself this is still considered mild. If it was serious, I would be running out of air. I'd be in danger of dying. I'd be hospitalized.
David,
so I had it at that end.
Well, David, was there any point where you were actually fearful that this might be it, that you might not recover, that you'd become one of those statistics, especially with Jackie having suffered an illness that affected her lungs and her breathing a couple of months before this?
At no stage were we ever fearful of going to hospital. And you're absolutely right. Jackie had an illness called pneumonitis, and we were always anticipating the very worst, and we kept hearing stories about people having a turn for the worst. But I think what was important for us was to have a little device that you can buy at any pharmacy called an oximeter, little device that clips on your finger, and it measures your oxygen saturation levels in an instant. And so we constantly monitored our oxygen saturation levels, which remained very high. It's got a range between 94 and 98, and then you are perfect. And ours never dropped below 94. I've seen so many stories of people whose oxygen saturation levels dropped below 90, 88, 87, and only then did they think it was appropriate to seek medical attention. And on some occasions, it was too late. So I would recommend to everybody get the oximeter, and that really saved us. But at no stage did we ever feel this is now so desperate, we need expert medical care. We could treat this with over-the-counter medication, even though it was so horrible.
Well, you've told us about the physical toll this has taken on you, but what about the emotional toll, David? I mean, it was you and Jackie, but not your two little boys, which must have been quite difficult to isolate or keep yourselves away from them. I know back in May when my husband tested positive, I mean, just isolating one person was so complicated. But I can't imagine if both of us were positive and my two kids were negative, how would we live? Because you can't call anybody in to take care of them or take them away either.
Yeah, I think the answer for us was bad parenting, Yuveka. We said you can watch as much TV, go on as many devices, you can play Xbox and PS4 as much as you like. Just stay away from us. My little boy Tom, who's 9, couldn't believe his luck. My older boy, who is 16, is also autistic. He prefers his own company. He prefers being in his own little bubble. So he was no problem. And we told the kids if they're going to come and talk to us in any way, they had to wear a mask first. And so they got through it, no problem. And in fact, who knows if they actually got it? Tom had a cough for a day, and we thought, well, here we go. And the next day he was as right as rain. We seem to have escaped it. But I'm not going to recommend bad parenting on any other occasion or on any other platform.
Yeah.
On this occasion, maybe that saved us.
Well, always a silver lining. You know, we were told from the beginning, find your silver lining to this. And, of course, the kids were the ones who benefited from this. David, as a final question to you, how has this changed your life? Has it changed you physically? Do you feel like parts of you are never going to be 100% ever again? Do you feel even better? Do you feel richer for the experience, if we can put it that way? And how has it changed how you view your life?
I'm no longer as anxious as I used to be about getting it. I now understand what it's going to be like, and I'm now told by the medical experts the next time, God forbid, if I get infected, it's not going to be as bad. But also I understand the severity, the viciousness of this virus, and I implore people, you do not want to get this. It is not a hoax. I feel absolutely fine. I have every now and again, I'll have a day where I'm utterly fatigued or I get a cough and for half a day and then it's gone. So it is unrelenting. It's remorseless. It's still there. It'll take a while to shake. But I think the two lessons I learned was fatigue is the debilitating symptom, and the anxiety, the desperation, the fear that this could turn into something worse. And I would like everybody to be prepared for those two things. But do what's necessary. Wear the mask, sanitize, do the social distancing, avoid this. You don't want it.
David O'Sullivan, journalist, radio host, and an old colleague of mine. I'm so glad we were able to chat to you about this, and thank you so much for sharing that story.